and welcome to Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond, hosted by Mark Kaler. My name is Penka Jane, podcast deckhand and longtime listener. We'd thank you to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Here's today's catch.
Hello guys, and welcome back to another installment of Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler. Today we've got another, well, I don't know if we're going to call him an East Coaster, but he's certainly out here. Today we have joining us Captain Billy Aaron. Billy, how are you today?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Excellent, excellent. Welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to come and record.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a neat experience.
Cool. So let's just start at the beginning of where were you born, and what was your first introduction or call to the sea?
I was born in Puyallup, Washington. 1989 was my first trip up north to Alaska on a catcher processor called the Bountiful. Worked on that boat for 3 years total. Started out as a deckhand, processing the crab, and actually was punching a clock working out on deck, minimum wage, to earn a percentage. And I was on that boat, like I said, 3 years. The boat actually went over to Russia in the early 90s for a joint venture, which we were fishing blue king crab.
And that was Captain Joe Morris.
Captain Joe Morris.
Who's been on the show before.
Yeah.
I want to back you up just a little bit, though. So sometime between when you were born and started on the processor, what called you there? How'd you figure it out, or what?
I was out of high school, and I was just looking for, a career, a direction. I was doing, minimal stuff in around the Seattle area, and a friend of mine told me about, Trident Seafoods, and they were looking for guys to go up north, and I found a passion. I loved it, the adventure. It was kind of gets in your blood that when you first get on a boat and it's the adventure of it, headed out to sea. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it does. What about the trip to Russia? Was there any prep that you had to do in order to go?
Yes. We did not have visas at the time on the boat, so we had to stock the boat. It's I think it's a 170-foot boat. It's a catch. There's 30 guys on the boat, but we were going to be out to sea for a long period of time, and so the boat, we stocked as much as we could hold, to do the trip across the Pacific there. We ended up in Sea of Okhotsk, which is on the Kamchatka Peninsula, fishing blue king crab, and we also had Russian scientists on the boat. So part of the joint venture was they were doing research work, grid work, when we weren't fishing. So we were setting pots at crazy depths to, just to map the bottom floor and what we were catching. But it was pretty interesting stuff, and we, got to hang out with the Russians there a little bit. So it was a fun experience.
But never went to land because you didn't have a visa, right?
Yes. We offloaded to trampers, close to shore. But we didn't touch land for 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a long trek.
Yeah. Was there any kind of? Yeah, it's probably the similar experiences to our own waters, right?
Yeah.
Probably didn't feel all that different.
Not that much different, and it was fun. We had a great time, great group of guys. Joe Morris, he's a great captain. Yeah, we had a blast.
How long was the crossing?
I want to say a week. Yeah, it was close to a week.
Yeah, it's not far from Alaska, right?
Yeah, straight shot, But it was fun.
Provision in Dutch Harbor, or?
Yes, yeah, we left out of Dutch, and then we came back. We came into Sandpoint.
Okay. So where did you go from there?
The next year, Joe Morris, he was got another captain's job on the American Champion, which is American Seafoods boat, and it was kind of a new thing for this brand new boat. They were rigging it to fish crab, and it was a little high tech. They had 2 launchers, and they had 2 claws on, that grab the pot. They were trying to do, some interesting stuff, crab fishing. They wanted to haul 2 pots at the same time, and they had a pneumatic throwing hook, and they had all these ideas, But
A pneumatic throwing hook.
yeah, air.
Put it in a gun and shoot it.
Yeah. So we went out and did sea trials, and some of the guys that were on the Russian trip with me, my friend Mitch Judd, his nickname Spud. We're like, get rid of the stuff, just go back to the basics. So they end up just going back to your basic hauler and throwing the hook. Yeah. But it was interesting to see. But I was on that boat for I don't know, it was like 8 months, and they did the pollock season up there too, because you could do both. And I did an A season on that boat, and it was a little slow pace for me, compared to crabbing. It was a lot of downtime, so I didn't stick around long. I was like, I got to do something else. Yeah, so, yeah. I mean, I like to be in the thick of it,
Yeah. Pollock fishing's a different,
it's a different mindset.
Set the net out. And wait.
It was neat to see how they did it. They were pulling up bags as big as school buses on the back of the boat and
full of fish.
Oh yeah, and we could transfer it to another, one of the bigger processors, and that was pretty neat to see it. How it all worked.
Yeah,
that was cool.
So only 8 months there.
8 months there.
Okay.
And then the year after, Joe gave me a tip on another boat that was going to Russia called the Diomedes. The boat was actually Russian owned, and it was in Ballard getting fitted. And so I jumped on that boat to go over to Russia. And this boat, I had to actually get a visa. Mm-hmm. So I flew into Russia to get on the boat. The boat made the trip from Ballard to the Sea of Host, same thing. And I flew into Petropavlovsk, and then I flew from there to Khabarovsk, and then they took us to the boat there in Petro. I'm sorry, I got it reversed. Khabarovsk and then Petro.
Any unique experiences on that trip?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I got to feel the culture there. That was an awesome experience. It was all Russian crew, except for 4 Americans. It was me, Ken, and Danny Brown, and then Sterling, and then they had two engineers, and then the captain. So it basically was another joint venture. Where we're just showing them how to to fish the crab, and it was a processor also. But we caught a ton of crab. And
I want to know the culture though.
The culture,
it was,
yeah, it was. It makes you appreciate where you live. Very poor country. We had to guard the boat at night because they would actually cut the mesh and steal our buoys and stuff out of the boat, off the boat. Any food that was on the boat was getting stolen. The Americans had our own locker with a padlock to keep the food on the boat, literally. Things were very minimal there. But the neat part about it was we got to spend a lot of time with the Russian families on the boat. They invited us to their house for Easter. And, we did some travel around in Russia, went to a couple of the spas, the hot spas they have around in the area, because Kamchatka is part of the Ring of Fire. So, you got the Aleutian chain that comes around, and then over in Kamchatka, they've got all these hot springs. It's all volcanic over there, So it was really neat to travel around and,
Do they treat that like in Alaska, everybody... The locals are all like, oh, I'm going to go get my steam.
Yeah.
And it's like a regular thing for them to sit in a steam box. That's their deal.
That's their deal. And you can only go to certain ones because the Russian mafia were running different ones. And there was a lot of that going on, too. A lot of...
Did you ever feel uncomfortable?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Yeah. We... Well, of course, being fishermen, we went out into the town and, went to have some few drinks and dinner.
Few Pepsis.
Yeah. And, there's always one guy that doesn't, follow the rules. And he left without paying his bill. And they grabbed him and kept him. And we actually had to go pay for him to get... It wasn't jail. It was just the owners of the restaurant that were holding him hostage until he got paid, but they were very intimidating. It's you definitely want to be on your best behavior in another country. I mean, because you just never know,
mm-hmm.
what could happen.
How was crabbing?
It was awesome. It was there was so much crab there. Going back to the Bountiful, we ended up with a 500,000 pounds of blue king crab processed.
How many were coming up in a pot?
Stuffed.
Of blue king?
Hundreds. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I know they've really exploited that fishery since we've left because there was no restrictions on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know how it is now, but what I seen when we were there, it was uncharted territory for crab. I mean, because they had never, really fished it commercially.
Well, I know in St. Matthews now, you pull up 25 in a pot and you're having a really good day.
Yeah, you're happy. Yeah, I've done that fishery too, way back when on the Bountiful too, and it was very meager.
Even then.
Yeah, even then. That was 89, 90, but I mean, yeah, the fishery itself, it was very plentiful then, but that was early 90s, so I know a lot of the Russian king crab has flooded the market and has fluctuated our price here in the States, so. But I've been kind of out of the loop for a while, so I haven't really been following it, so.
So where'd you go after this one?
Diomedes. I went and worked with some friends of mine from Seattle. Do you ever hear of the dog boats?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Retriever, Labrador.
Beagle.
Bulldog.
Yep, Bulldog.
Yep. So I went to work with my friend Jim Stone on the Retriever. And that's where I really started to be, getting to learn the engine room, and that type of stuff. Yeah, that was like 94, 95. I was on that boat for a good 3 years.
Doing engineering?
Engineering, yeah. We had some great seasons, too, on the boat. Unbelievable. We had 95 was probably one of the hardest Opie seasons I ever fished. It was still derby fishery then. And the ice came down brutal that year. And literally for 3.5, 4 months, we broke ice every day to go to work. I mean, it was that bad. And we actually punched a hole in the bow with an iceberg. Jim went down to get a cup of coffee, and we were steaming out of an ice floe. And we were in open water, and you just didn't see one of the icebergs. And, I mean, it literally almost knocked us on our butts on the deck. And punched a hole in the Foskel, and that's where our hydraulic pumps were. So it filled it up with water out at sea.
Never want water on that side of the boat.
No. So we transferred fuel over, and I think it was the Bulldog that came over to help us. We were in the ice floes because out there it's calm when you're out in that type of weather. When you get in the big ice floes, it kind of calms the seas down. So they tied up to us. We transferred fuel over, got the boat listed over, and the other engineer, he got down there. He was standing in water with a porta power, pushed it back in, and welded it. And it was still leaking somewhat, but we fished the rest of the season pumping that out. And we finished the season, and then when we got back in, we hauled the boat out. So, but we literally fished the season with still a little bit of a hole in the bow.
Still dripping down there.
Yeah, I mean, we were on such hot fishing, it was just like, back in those days, it's just like you had to get it while it was good,
So he got down in the water to do this.
Yeah, he was standing.
And that had to be cold.
Oh yeah, he was standing in knee deep water welding, too. Which is a little risky in itself.
Yeah.
But it was a neat experience. So I mean, it's one of not the greatest experience, but it was it was a story.
Oh yeah, it's certainly locked in there.
Yeah, but I fished on that boat for a good 3 years. It was a good experience. I got a lot of engine room experience.
And then where?
Then after that, another buddy of mine was running, Mitch Judd, who was in Russia with me on the Bountiful with Jim Morris. He got his captain's license, and we started. He started running his own boat called the Beverly Bee, big Mississippi mud boat, and we did a few crab seasons on that boat also. Just king crab, snow crab. It only lasted about 1.5 years, 2 years. I think it was right when they started to
allocate.
the quotas. I mean, I'm not really sure what the exact year that
Seems like
was.
it was right around there.
It was right around there. So, there was such a big boat. It wasn't a catcher processor. It was just a big mud boat. But the expenses on it were a lot just for fuel, and the price at the time, price of fuel was way up too. So it was the trips were meager.
Yeah.
You know how that works. Some.
Absolutely.
You could be catching a lot, but everything else is up, so it goes both ways. But
and then
the Beverly Bee, and then after that, where did I go? That was, I think, I was on there till 97, 98, and then I came over to the East Coast.
Okay, where was your first spot here?
So my buddy Danny Brown, who was on the Retriever with me, was friends with Jonathan Hillstrand back then on the Time Bandit, and Jonathan had come over to Gloucester to be a joint venture or a partner in the Hannah Bowden, which was in the Perfect Storm and whatnot. So Jonathan basically brought me over here too. This is how I met him. To fish on the Hannah Bowden, doing red crab and lobster, so deep water red crab. I was over here probably a good year. I was going back and forth. I was jumping from here to Alaska.
Both fisheries.
I was going when the season would end up over there. I'd come over here because this fishery was a year-round fishery. Fishing with wooden traps. So that was different.
Lighter?
Not really. Well, there was no cranes to pick stuff up. It was all manhandling stuff, So yeah, it was a different fishery. It was fun, but it was hard also. You had to be a carpenter to fix these wooden traps. You'd be out at sea trying to nail them, and whatnot. But it's all changed now. It's all wire stuff now. But it was fun to have that experience, of the East Coast fishery. And what I loved about it, we're out here in the summertime in shorts,
Right.
So coming from the Bering Sea, you're like, oh, this is awesome, It's like a vacation.
Much smaller boats though, too, right?
Much smaller boats, yeah. Yeah.
What about weather-wise? Seas?
Seas, yeah. Well, my experience is the lows sit up in Alaska and just beat the crap out of it for days. They seem to come quicker through here. Because you got a lot of the Gulf weather coming this way, and it comes from from the west too. So, but seas wise, I think the Bering Sea has got to beat. But it all depends on what time of year it is too.
Yeah, you can get your ass kicked anywhere.
Yeah.
So then you went on to continue running some lobster boats too, right?
Not lobster boats. I was over here for a couple years. Back and forth, and then I went back over to Alaska to fish on the Western Viking. I did a brown crab season up in Adak.
Oh.
So that was a cool experience too.
Did you go on land and see the old Army Bay?
I did. We didn't get a chance to go up, get off the boat at all. But I've never long lined crab pots before.
Oh yeah,
that's a whole nother ballgame.
Explain the process.
It's basically like lobster traps over here on the East Coast, all tied together, but you're talking about 800-pound pots,
So one launches and pulls the next one out.
Yeah. So when shit goes wrong, it goes wrong. I mean, because that's you got a lot of weight pulling on that. It's definitely a lot more dangerous, only because the weight of the pots are all tied together.
And they're going.
Yeah. So if something goes wrong, you just got to get out of the way because there's no stopping it. I mean, there's just so much weight on that line. Yeah, we had an awesome season. I think we caught a couple 100,000 pounds, in a short period of time, and that, it was summertime too.
Yeah.
So that was fun fishing. I've never actually fished in the summertime up in Alaska. I tendered. Like on the Bountiful, going back to the Bountiful, we do the salmon tending in the summertime, a couple years in the bay, yeah, which is just kind of like a vacation, but you're not working as hard. But going back to brown crabbing, yeah, that's a whole nother ball game when you're long lining crab pots.
Yeah. So speaking of things going wrong, with all the years that you've spent up there, do you remember? I know you've had a really scary experience. We all have, but remember the first one?
The first one.
First time you were like, "Oh, this is not going right."
The worst one was on the Bountiful. When we were setting pots, it's a big boat. It held 300 pots on the deck. And launching the pots. You bring the crane over and you drop the pot on the launcher. Well, the guy would jump up and unhook the hook. Well, it hooked back up, and I was in front of the pot, and so the guy on the crane cabled up, and the pot came at me, and I ran, and pinched me in between the railing and the pot. Luckily, no broken bones, but badly bruised. I got lucky on that one. But I lost two of my closest friends up there, also in the early '90s too. John Loreth, he fished on the Billiken. Yeah, he fell overboard, and by the time they turned around to get him, he was already under the water. And then Todd Augustine, he died on the I can't remember the name of the boat. He got crushed by a crab pot also. So these guys were my roommates in the early '90s, and within 3 years they both passed away. It's as you know, interviewing people it's
unforgiving.
It is unforgiving.
Yeah.
So going back to the Western Viking, I did the brown crab season, and I was kind of bouncing around a little bit. I just got divorced and stuff, so I didn't have a place to land, so I was just kind of bouncing around. I ended up doing another crab season on the Ramblin' Rose. I did a king crab season on that, and then after the Ramblin' Rose, the Kona Kai, I did a crab season on that one also. They were just one season things, king crab and the snow crab. Filling in, yeah. Just bouncing around. And then I came back over here to the East Coast because Jonathan Hillstrand has a partner with another boat, which had been sent to New Bedford. And I don't know if you've heard of the slime eel fishery over here, hagfish. So it's just an eel. It's mostly gets shipped overseas to Korea and whatnot. But the fishery at the time was booming, and there was really not a lot of restrictions on it. So me and Jonathan came over and got the boat from New Bedford, brought it to Gloucester, and rigged it for the hagfish fishery, which they long line barrels. So they're round barrels with cones in them. So the eels swim in, they can't swim out. And you use like tuna racks or herring for bait. And it's not a very pleasant fishery. It's stinky, slimy. So like one slime eel, you put it in a bucket and you aggravate, it'll fill that bucket up with slime.
Really?
Yeah, it's a very weird fishery. There's two boats that are still doing it here in Gloucester, but they freeze it, plate freeze it right on the boat.
So less slime.
Yeah, less slime and less dead loss too, because the way we were doing it, we were fishing it and putting it in barrels and refrigerated hold, and you get a lot of dead loss that way. So the way they're doing it now is a little more efficient, not a lot of dead loss. But in Gloucester, there's two boats that are still doing it over there.
So I'm like picturing a wooden barrel with a cone in it.
No. So you just put, like a pickle barrel?
Yeah.
Plastic, with a lid on the top, and then they have cones that come in like this and they taper in, kind of like cod fingers on a cod pot in Alaska. They can swim in but can't swim out.
So when you're pulling these things out, are they just full of water too?
Full of water too, and slime.
Yeah.
So when you dump the barrel initially into the table, you have to spin the slime out of it and then push the eel
going all over you.
And it's not the best smelling fish either. It's pretty nasty. So.
What kind of market is there for it? Or I mean, was there any obviously there's value, or you wouldn't have been fishing it. But.
Yeah. Now I don't know. Back then, the trips were, it was kind of like a lobster trip, over here. Now, not a lot of money, but it was steady, and there was no restrictions on it, so you could fish it year round, But there was a lot of boats in Gloucester here that were doing it, but they're not as many as there used to be. I ran a couple of the other boats here in Gloucester too that were fishing. The Kamano, which used to be an Alaska boat, which they brought over here and converted. And the Kristen and Michael, another little one. It was like the size of a lobster boat. It ran those boats for, few months off and on, just fill-ins and stuff. But so going back to the boat that me and Jonathan brought over, the boat's name was Canyon Explorer. So I was captain and part owner of that boat for 3 years. We fished it. We did pretty good. The boat sank in 2004 with me as captain off Cape Cod. It's an older boat, and one of the valves for the sea chest broke open, and our pumps couldn't keep up, and it was dead of winter. It was probably, I think it was into February, March. Pretty bad seas too. The boat was taking on water. We could not keep up with the pumps, and by the time the Coast Guard got out there, the boat was starting to list. So we all got in the life raft and went for a helicopter ride, unfortunately. So the boat sank about 20 miles off of Cape Cod.
Crew was okay though?
Everybody was okay. Everybody got off safe. We lost the boat, unfortunately. A lot of hard work. We'd gotten to a point where it was actually doing well, so it was heartbreaking. Me and John put our heart and soul into that thing, so it was kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But I mean,
what was going through your mind when you realized it was a non-winning battle?
Survival mode. It's like, all right, what am I going to do to protect the crew? Get these guys off, and the boat's just a material thing. It's just make sure this crew's safe. But I mean,
they do survival suits out here.
Oh yeah,
I don't.
They've gotten more vigilant about it. I think most of it started on Alaska just because of the fatalities, but I know now they are it's a requirement for companies to do the training which is good. In
2004 was it?
Yes, 2004.
So your crew knew what they were doing. They knew what they was expected.
Yeah, I mean, we were, I was good about that coming from Alaska because I embedded that in my crew. If something goes wrong, this is what we're doing, and we had drills and everything. So it was, could have been worse.
Yeah, I can't imagine the feeling.
Yeah, so, after the sinking of the boat, I kind of jumped around a little bit. I went down to Sandwich, Mass, and worked on my buddy's lobster boat, Mark Boulay, which he's a Highliner here in Massachusetts, lobster guy, and the Miss Julie. I was on that boat for a couple of years, and we did very well. He was a good lobsterman.
Mm-hmm. I hear lobstering's really aggressive.
Oh, it is. Yeah. I have a friend here too that he works for Shaftmaster. I don't know if you've ever heard of that company. It's in New Hampshire. So those guys they fish hard, 10 days on, 2 days off, year round. And I work for that company a little bit too. Did a couple fill-in trips. But it's a hard racket, offshore lobstering. So it's little boats, and it's all pretty much manual labor. Lobster traps. But it's a money maker. I mean, you make money, but you're always out at the sea, because it's a year-round fishery.
I keep hearing that they fight over spots pretty aggressively.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough
really
to
messing with gear, or people messing with their gear, or.
Oh yeah, it's a battle out there. I mean, there's been a few times, guys set over, another guy, and then they're out there yelling at each other. I mean, there's been shots fired out there before. I've heard in the past. If you go farther north too, I mean, they're pretty aggressive about their grounds, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys have had these same sets, 20 years, and then you get somebody else coming in here, it's, they stake their ground, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I jumped around on a bunch of different lobster boats, and I did a couple inshore boats here in Gloucester too, just fill-ins, and then I met my wife and we had kids, so it kind of slowed down my my fishing. But my son was 2 and my daughter was 4, and Jonathan on the Time Bandit called me and said, "Hey, you want to make a king crab trip?" And this is 2013. And I was like, "Sure, I'll go up another time." And this is when the show was going on too, so I didn't know what to expect. I'm just used to getting on a boat and fishing, so that was a little more than I expected. It was neat to see how they did the whole experience and stuff, but it did become bothersome to be constantly worried about what you say and whatnot. But
Camera in your face.
yeah, they ask, "Can you say this again, but say it like this?" I'm like, I already said what I was gonna say. I don't know how else to say it. And a lot of start and stop in, and but it was neat to see how they do it. I mean, it's amazing to me how much filming they did and how much only makes it on the show.
Right.
You're talking seconds. With thousands of hours of footage.
You get a camera in your face for 100 hours.
Yeah,
and
right.
You're there for 2 seconds.
I think I was on the show for like 10 seconds. I said like 2 words. I'm like, which is fine by me. And it was funny because the camera guy's like, "Oh, don't you want to be famous?" Like, "No, I'm here to make money. That's my whole point of coming up here.
Yeah.
I don't want to be famous."
Yeah.
But that's the way I'm old school fisher. The cameras were kind of bothersome.
Yeah.
So. But that was a good crab season too, though. It was fun, to go up one last time, and my last hurrah, pretty much, So my fishing days are pretty much over.
Alaska's beautiful.
I know. Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable. So I'm hoping to get up there with my kids to take them everywhere I've been, Dutch Harbor and stuff,
Adak?
Yeah. That might be a little too far out there. Yeah.
It's the furthest you can go.
I know, right? My son's 10 and my daughter's 12, and so they know of my past, my fishing and stuff. So it'd be neat to share that experience with them. And Jonathan Hillstrand, he still has a salmon boat up in Homer, so I'm hoping to go up there one of these summers and hang out with him for a little bit, go do some halibut and salmon fishing too. Mm-hmm. So hoping to get back up there again.
Yeah, it's the call.
It is. I mean, once you've been there, it calls you back.
So you think you're done with the water?
I am.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my own little sport fishing boat. I go out tuna fishing, with friends and stuff out of Gloucester,
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I'm 50 years old, so.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. He's a young-looking 50, guys. You'll see his picture posted with the episode.
Yeah, it was all those years of fishing. Yeah, it's all about, taking care of yourself too,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are you up to now?
Me and my wife own our own business here in Gloucester. It was her family business, a gas station, a Shell station, and a hearth store. And we have some storage units and stuff, so it keeps us busy,
Mm-hmm.
So I love being home. I mean, I couldn't imagine being away from my kids for long periods of time. So it's worked out for the better. But I mean, I don't regret all those years of fishing. I mean, it was unbelievable the places I went and seen. And the friends I've made.
There's nothing like a sunrise or a sunset in Alaskan waters when there's no land behind it.
It's just a free feeling. You just it's unexplainable.
Which is going to bring me to my next question: is what's one of your favorite memories of fishing, whether it be on the East Coast or West Coast or?
One of my favorite memories would be probably going over to Russia on the Bountiful. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of my life.
Were you on there when there was the fuel issue?
On the Bountiful?
Yeah, when they were in Russia and Joe had the fuel leak issue or overfill issue?
No, I think that was a year after I was on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So going to Russia that'd be a life.
Yeah,
experience.
Yeah, I mean, you go to the third world country, to work is, it was a neat experience.
Would you change anything about your history of fishing?
Never. Maybe saving a little more money, not living so crazy like a fisherman, it's it's definitely money management. I give advice to people that are still fishing that are young, just, you never know what's going to happen later in life, you get hurt, you don't fish no more, but invest well.
Yeah, there's no 401k, there's no
it's all on you.
Yeah.
If I had the knowledge now knowledge then than I know now, I would have done things a lot bit differently.
Well, you'd be a millionaire.
I would be. I would put all that money into Microsoft back in the late 80s, early 90s. You know?
Early 90s Yahoo. Right?
Yahoo, yeah. So, but I have no regrets. You know, I'm comfortable now. So.
What about advice for young people getting in the industry, whether that be on the East Coast or the West Coast?
Like I said, just manage your money well and get out while you're fairly young. You know, my friend Nick Tokman, Sunshine, he's moved on to some other positive things. You know, he's doing public speaking and whatnot, and the fishery beats you up. You know, I've had 2 surgeries, my knees are gone. You know, so if you're gonna do it until you're like 30, or you know, and put all that money away and invest in a business, or you know, something that's gonna make money.
It's often said on the podcast that our community, the fishing industry, we're such a small group, and coming out here, because you and I had no contact prior to me coming out.
Nope.
And coming out here to record some East Coast fishermen and finding someone, again, drawn from Alaska,
Right.
born in Puyallup,
Yeah.
and still, yet you're over here.
Right.
It just proves, once again, how small our industry is, and not just in Alaska,
Right.
as an Alaska community, but even over here.
Right.
Nick's here. Nick's down in...
He's in Springfield.
okay, yep. So it's just kind of a little weird, isn't it?
It is weird. Yeah. You know, it's weird that Nick's like this close to me, you know, just everybody's, you know, tight knit, you know, so just like you said. So,
Yeah, we are a small community.
yeah. And, you know, I hope to get back up there someday again, you know.
Now, did you deliver to St. Paul at all?
Yes.
I asked because you said you want to take your kids to every place that you've been. That's going to be a trip.
Oh, yeah, St. George and St. Paul.
Yeah.
Going back to that, there's one story I did not, you know, touch on the retriever. We got stuck in St. George Island for like 4 days because of bad weather. I mean, the swells were so big that we couldn't get out of the breakwater with a full load of gear, and we were breaking all of our tie-up lines on the dock. The harbor master had to come bringing us lines because the surge in the harbor was so bad. You know, it was dropping 15 to 20 feet. So we ended up we were running out of dock lines. It was still blowing. We just made the trip. We made the pact that, all right, we got to get out of here, else we're not going to be able to tie up. So the skipper at the time, Jim Lamar, he said, we just got to get out of here. So, I mean, that was a hairy ride too. We come out from the breakwater. The boat was sideways, you know, full load of gear. We made it though, you know. So there's probably a lot of stories that maybe I don't remember. You know,
back then though too, there wasn't as tight of restrictions on the number of crab pots, right? I mean,
no.
The Coast Guard was just starting to really implement and get in there, and
yeah. So obviously the more the better, you know.
Yeah.
So, but you know, as you know, back in the day, people used to take a lot of risk, you know.
yeah, some guys still do.
Yep. You know, and I think it's unnecessary. You know, I mean, you don't have to fish in that crappy weather if you don't have to. You know, but it's just that mentality. You know,
Yeah.
crab fisherman. And I drive my wife nuts because I still have that mentality of like 100 miles an hour all the time. She's like, you're not fishing. You know, you can slow down a little bit. So it's just the way that we, you know, the way we worked. You know, so.
Well, Billy, as we wrap this up, do you have anything else you want to share? Or?
I just hope everybody's safe up there, you know, and make good judgments, you know.
Yeah.
And all the people I've met up there, you know, it was a great experience, and all the friends I made up there, you know. So, but I appreciate you interviewing me. It was fun.
No, it's cool. It was very cool.
All right.
Guys, make sure that you share, like, and subscribe to the podcast. And if you have any questions for Captain Billy Aaron, just write in and we'll get them forwarded to him to answer. And if there's nothing else?
There's nothing else. And yeah, this was fun.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.